Hello, and welcome to the Somerford Technology Podcast. My name is Anne, and I'm the Technical Manager at Somerford. On this podcast series, we look at various technical challenges that our customers are dealing with, so you are dealing with, and how Somerford associates can help. We look at how our solutions connect together to bring the best overall technical solution to your problem. We invite experts from across the industry to focus on a particular challenge. Spoiler alert, these experts are usually from our suite of solutions, and that way you can really hear from the horse's mouth how they are helping you. This week we're exploring delivering modern cloud infrastructure. Everyone, at least in part, is moving to the cloud, whether we'll be ending in a hybrid situation or fully cloud and SaaS up, software as a service up. And quickly the DevOps environment gets really, really messy. And indeed the securing that cloud, those cloud systems. So from the DevOps side, all of the consoles that people have to log into, understanding, where all of these microservices are, especially if something's going wrong and the end user has a slow application, where is the problem rooted? Securing that disparate environment is also a challenge. So we need desperately a way to manage and control this. Cue HashiCorp. So our customers are all asking us why HashiCorp and why the enterprise levels of HashiCorp. So who better to speak to than Ray? He's the CTO of EMEA from HashiCorp. HashiCorp's mission is to deliver a modern cloud infrastructure. So whether you use them or another provider, you will be having these challenges about how to observe your cloud infrastructure, how to do it efficiently by code, and how to secure it. So welcome, Ray. I'm really interested in your takes on this.
Thank you so much for having me, Anne. It's great to be here.
So why don't you just introduce yourself, tell the listeners about yourself, how you got there, and what you do for HashiCorp?
Sure thing. HashiCorp is a relatively young company. It was started in 2012. I've been there myself just a little bit over a year. I left Red Hat. I ran the OpenShift and middleware practices for the past 12 and a half years.
Brilliant.
But when I got a call from HashiCorp, I was intrigued, and I couldn't even be more enthusiastic now than I was 12 months ago. There's so much happening and quite a bit of adoption, pretty much because of the tidal trends within our industry at this moment in time, much like you mentioned, with everyone moving to cloud. And we talked to, about 300 people in the month that are at various stages of their journeys.
Yeah, and also for your first year having COVID right in the middle of it, it's been that must have been a really strange introduction to a new company.
Traveling definitely got reduced. Being the field CTO, that's kind of part of the position. So we've all had to cope into quite a bit of time on Zoom.
Yeah, but it's also accelerated the demand for all this cloud help.
Absolutely. Our investors believe that it's accelerated the trend that was happening by 2 to 3 years, as opposed to what was to take a decade. So
yeah,
much further along on that journey for everyone, whether that is your local restaurants who need to have a site up online for takeout and delivery, to everybody being remote now. It's definitely made the disruption and the digital transformation that much more accentuated.
Yeah, absolutely. So actually that brings us on to why, what do you mean by the cloud operating model? And I think HashiCorp aims to deliver modern cloud infrastructure. Am I right there?
Yeah, I think we can all recognize that we're going through a transition in the industry. One from running infrastructure, which was largely dedicated on servers running within a private data center, to this much more mixed view of the world, where I still have my private infrastructure here, but if I'm an organization of any given size, I'm running my infrastructure on a public cloud, whether that's Amazon, Azure, or GCP. Pretty much, most people pick a primary. But if you're an enterprise, whether by intent or by accident, oftentimes I'll have multi-cloud, whether that's through merger and acquisitions or trying to pick the best technical solutions from each one of the public cloud providers and mixing and matching those along with our legacy brownfield IT estates, whatever euphemism you'd like to say, about the investments we've already made. And how do we actually get to be able to work within those? So we're seeing quite a bit of change to get to multi-cloud. And with that, there's a whole lot of new changes to where we think the world is going. This is, I guess, the best way to put that is the implications of the new model are that at the infrastructure layer, you're going from running dedicated servers, that are pretty homogeneous and limited in scale, to having these new systems of engagement, much like the Ubers and the Facebooks that are very, very spiky, and you need to spin up 10,000 instances at rush hour and then at 2 a.m, reduce those back down. The ways that we used to do work fundamentally have to change, right?
So you mean one of the trends is that actually there's much more spiky demand for the servers as well, so you have to be far more flexible?
Yeah. Jeffrey Moore, the gentleman who wrote Crossing the Chasm and the Clue Train Manifesto and all sorts of things, calls them systems of engagement. Mm-hmm. And these are the systems that we have nowadays that we have on our pocket computers called our mobile phones that allow us to be able to get any given service on demand at any given time, whether that's your food delivery or your car hire or what have you, right? Mm-hmm. So they're very, very spiky. When people want them, they want them immediately. There's not a real strong case to be able to build up your own server farms necessarily, as much as being able to automatically provision quickly up to demand and then as quickly burn them back down after the case.
Yeah, that makes sense. So that's the sort of dynamic infrastructure that is the trend towards.
Quite a bit. And when you think about it, going into the cloud, there's whole lots of other different implications, not just for provisioning, but also for networking, as well as security, as well as being able to take advantage of these distributed compute grids for what was traditionally something that we didn't have in the past. So all of a sudden, we have to think about all the different ways that our workflows have to change in order to take advantage of this new paradigm shift. The last big one was 20 years ago when VMs were introduced. And we're still seeing people still evolving on that journey. Only about 70% of folks are using virtual machines at this point in time. So
really? Oh, okay.
Yeah, brave new world.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, obviously, the people who tend to listen to this podcast are usually our clients who are well down that journey, but we're still definitely going to be on the kind of hybrid. And there will definitely be on-prem stuff for most of them. And just that messy kind of some stuff in Azure, some stuff in AWS, some stuff, all over the place, really.
Right. They'll have mainframes for 20 more years to come, if not longer. New things will be cloud native and container based, but that walled garden, you'll never throw some of your applications into Kubernetes. It just won't happen. It doesn't make business sense.
In theory, then, if someone ended up having a environment which they wanted just 100% do everything in AWS, would they need Terraform?
In theory, they can do it on completely within AWS without any challenges whatsoever. Same thing with Azure or GCP or Alley Cloud. They all have ways to be able to handle the provisioning, the security, the connectivity, the runtimes. But the challenge is that each time you start to use a different set of technologies, whether that happens to be your existing vSphere, or you go all in on AWS with CloudFormation and all of their security systems and the like, once you acquire another company or once you start to mix, all of a sudden you need to actually gain much more skill sets in yet another set of workflows and technologies. And that matrix gets pretty big pretty quickly if you're going into multi-cloud or you choose to go to China and need to use Tencent or Alibaba Cloud. These are things that folks keep in mind.
Yeah. It would
The
never
Hashi
really
stack doesn't
happen.
try to abstract that. Yeah.
Yeah, basically. So most of our clients are starting to explore this Hashi stack. What is the Hashi stack? Just really quickly, just in case someone's listening and is like, what do you mean?
Oh, sure. There's four products in the Hashi stack. Terraform allows for folks to provision infrastructure, all the way from infrastructure as a service, all the way through software as a service. So defining your pre-made telemetry stacks, or your F5, or your EC2 instances, or your Kubernetes instances for on-prem or any of the cloud providers. We have a product called Vault, which allows you to make sure that you have strong secrets management, which is something that we've all been terrible about in the past, assuming that we had a high trust network. It also allows for encryption as a service, as well as identity-based access. So you can plug into things such as Okta or Ping or Active Directory or AWS IAM, and allow them to be able to have identity groups so that it abstracts the different models from the various different types of technologies.
Mm-hmm.
The third product is Consul, which Consul is a networking Swiss Army knife, I guess is the best way to put that. It allows us to be able to, with the trends in software industry of moving from monoliths to microservices, allows for service discovery and health checks so that we can find those 10,000 instances of the Uber containers and where they might be within that network. It also allows the second use cases around network infrastructure automation. So a lot of the work we're trying to do is become as agile as possible to be able to deliver the software out to a production environment so that we can learn to react and pivot. A lot of times the networking infrastructure, whether that's your F5s or big IPs or your Cisco hardware or what have you, still needs to be updated by hand oftentimes. Consul does it for you. And so 10,000 more instances, update the east-west traffic, be able to push the load to these new sensitive systems that came up. And then the last more advanced use cases around service mesh. So it will work with your kube clusters as well as outside of that walled garden and be able to talk to your existing brownfield applications. So that mainframe can talk to that new system of engagement you've been spinning up. And last but not least, pretty much the same concept is Nomad, which is a lightweight scheduler, which is used by Roblox and quite a few others. That allows us to make sure that we can schedule our containers as well as our legacy applications and create batch workloads. So many of the big trading firms spin up 5 million containers, do a Monte Carlo simulation for trade, and spin it right back down after they're complete, and then go about their business. So,
and they'll do it through Nomad to schedule that, make sure it's not a manual sort of thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Simplified Kubernetes, I guess, is the best way to put it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's a good aha moment for me too. Thank you. But I often hear people are using, that what's great about HashiCorp is it's quite open source as a mentality. Am I right there? And there was a sort of, that's how it was formed. Everything's open source and everyone can try it out. And
yeah, it's focused on anybody from two folks in a garage to the Global 2000. And the practitioner is able to do most of the work that they would need to get done with our open source components or products. And how HashiCorp sets up their business is an open core model. So more organizational complexity than there are more advanced products or offerings, I guess is the best way to put that.
Yeah. So each of those four main things in the Hashi stack, you can go into open source, but then they'll probably have a enterprise layer for when you're kind of when you're wanting more functionality out of it.
Absolutely. Like things that organizations care about much more so than an individual practitioner, right? If I have 1,000 developers, I'd like to make sure I put some semblance of controls around what they can do to be able to provision. It's Amazon, an S3 bucket's only a couple of checkboxes away from putting something on the public internet, right? So that's something that you might want to keep and maintain to make sure that you have your correct security posture, what you'd like to make sure. So Sentinel is part of the technologies that allow us to create policy as code. so that the 80-20 rule can come into play, that when things look comfortable for your typical risk profile, they can automatically go into a production environment. So you can see these rapid iterations and gains that you would like to see in the past. Same time, you can do things such as risk tolerance, or make sure that developers don't spend $10,000 a week on their instances. Sorry, we need to have a conversation. You've already blown through your budget for the month. Other things are around collaboration or role-based access control, or the ability, like large enterprises. If you have a large DBA team that would like to make sure that they have the best practices for your Redis or your Postgres or what have you, they can set up modules so that your app teams can consume them in ways so that everyone can work together pretty cleanly. But at the same time, you can have the comfort or peace of mind that you're not risking yourself or anyone else.
Yeah.
Well, self-service is great. It's also very dangerous if you don't put some sort of ways to be able to control it.
I see. So the open source style of it is actually mainly designed for the people in the garage, or I don't know, 50 people organizations. But as soon as you start to need those kind of controls that you're talking about, you'd probably be heading towards an enterprise solution.
Yeah, so the crawl, walk, run is pretty much the individual practitioners can pull this down, do quite a bit of work with it. But once they need to start to collaborate, it's a little bit more complicated. And then once you really need controls, even much more so. So think of it much like Git and GitHub, where Git's open source, you can pull it down. GitHub has ways you can collaborate with small teams. Then all of a sudden you need access restrictions and chargebacks and the like and policies. And that's where the enterprise suite comes into play.
I understand. Okay. So when we're talking to our clients and they're just exploring it with the open source systems, that they're exploring the functionality and the main advantages they get, depending on what the product is, will be for all that collaboration and then control to stop it getting incredibly
exactly.
Yeah, cool. Okay, I understand.
Yeah, but word of caution, it's usually about that. As soon as you get past a small team of 2 to 3 folks is when you would like to take a look at some of our cloud offerings, or even start to think about the enterprise editions. Large insurance company in the US, State Farm, actually did a great video about should we just build up what they built themselves as far as Terraform Cloud, or should we just use that? So there's easy ways to be able to enter with low cost, as well as full on-prem site with integrations to your authentication systems, et cetera, et cetera. So I guess there's many offerings depending upon your size. We can meet you wherever you're at.
Yeah, absolutely. So most of our clients, actually, I mean, I like that example of the insurance company, because we do have some finance clients and, retail clients. And there are different challenges, but there's some commonalities. Lots of people have Splunk. Lots of people have Okta. Mm-hmm. And so how does HashiCorp fit with the kind of the tools that people are using to get that observability across their company, or to have that single sign-on tool? Does it help with those as well? Does it fit in with that kind of solution?
Oh, yeah. So with Splunk, how do we interact? One is that Terraform has a bunch of different providers, over 300 that are out there on the public registry at this point in time. One of those happens to be for Splunk. So whoever is managing your Splunk systems would have a single control plane for pretty much any of their app teams to make sure that it's set up exactly the way they'd like to make sure that they like their infrastructure so that they can continue to do their jobs.
Right. So you call that providers then? So in Terraform, you just look through like a menu of providers, and then you'll see people like Splunk and all of your other tools that you can control through it?
Datadog, F5, yeah.
Yeah. So a few of our clients are using, we're splunking Terraform Cloud business tier, I suppose. So they can use it or Vault to log what one's doing in those things. And also they're using it on a flip sense as well, to use Terraform to set up their Splunk environment, or to keep the changes and make the changes in the Splunk environment. Is that sort of a typical use case that you see as well?
Absolutely. Yeah. So Terraform allows you to be declarative around what you'd want your intended state to look like. And what you do is you do a Terraform plan, which will give you a list or a diff of any drift that might be out there, and then an apply, which allows you to make sure that you have the state that you actually intended to have. And you can set up your full Splunk environment with that. A lot of times what we do see is in logs from existing systems or new systems, usernames and passwords or credentials thrown into systems. Vault comes into play in this particular area as ways so that you can do password rotations and change your credentials on a regular occasion and create tokens versus having people just pass stuff over an open network.
Yes,
this
brilliant.
Way, you don't have 10-year-old passwords in the log. So once you do get compromised, people look at two spots usually, right? They look at your version control systems as well as your Splunk logs to find out where they can exploit.
Brilliant. And then Vault can take that headache from you and just control all of those. What about so Splunk, you can have different bits of the architecture. Say if you do an indexer cluster, which is when you cluster a few bits together, and you'd have a secret password between them, the password SIM key, that's it. Can you do that in Vault as well, even down to that level? Control.
Absolutely.
Okay.
You can get to Mother May I level, so least minimum security or authorization. So this particular microservice can only access these particular tables within a particular Postgres system if need be. So, by the way, it changes in every 6 weeks or every 30 days or every 10 minutes. And we can constantly have that updated. So you all of a sudden can reduce the blast radius of any sort of exploit, as well as keep some really good secret hygiene, considering that not everything's within that moat in the castle of the old world. And most of the stuff's on the public web. So you don't own that network.
No.
You don't necessarily know that risk. So.
Yeah. Have you got an example of someone using that Vault then that you, like a case study?
Oh my goodness. Sure. So Adobe is a great one. That's very public. I believe the numbers are, I want to say 100 trillion transactions per year.
Wow.
Through their marketing system is really what it is. So if you ever watch the World Cup or the Apple Worldwide Developer Conference or logged into HBO with your web browser, that's all running through their systems. They run it on AWS and Amazon and within their own private data centers.
But so are you mostly US focused then, and you're just dipping your toe into the European market, or have you been in Europe forever?
It's pretty organic, but the majority of the business comes out of the US, but we do have HashiCorp EU every single year. And it is constantly growing. Literally, I spent all of December in some of the eating at the finest restaurants in the airports all throughout Europe.
Lucky you. Not anymore.
Brutal. Not anymore. But no, there's quite a big presence. There's a great HashiCorp user groups all throughout Europe. So whether that's the Nordics, the UK, France, wherever.
Yeah. So we're actually a relatively new partner to you guys since May 2020, and I think we're fairly new in the world of trying to get our guys CHIP qualified, which is the professional service qualifications, which we've got 4 lots through the Terraform one, and just getting our. What's great is that we've seen it give benefits to clients, and now we'll be able to get our hands dirty on the keyboard as well. So that's
great.
Yeah, it is good. So I'm really privileged to get to chat to you, Ray, like a CTO of a massive company. And for me, what I'm really curious about is what you see coming down the pipeline, coming down as trends in the industry, because and that's what we we get an opportunity to hear from your point of view. You'll be at the cutting edge and you'll be seeing the strategy happening. What do you have any sort of insights for me?
Well, definitely cloud is a big thing that's not going to go away any given time soon. It is a secular trend that can't really be argued. What's really funny is that HashiCorp itself has been shipping their software as packages or for downloads, and we've not given folks a way to be able to pretty much consume it as a service. Nowadays, we have Terraform Cloud, and we've announced the HashiCorp Cloud Platform, which will give you access to a lot of our technologies in ways so that you don't need to set it up yourself. That it's push button deployments and fully managed infrastructure in one workflow across all the clouds. So you'll see stuff like Consul going onto AWS. It's already there and available for Azure already, and also putting Vault up online as well. And then more and more of our products will move that way in the near future. You'll see us starting to follow the trends of the large cloud service providers. They're all talking about things such as spinning up edge machines and how to make sure that they be able to manage and provision. You'll see that from us as well in the near future.
What are edge machines? Sorry to. It's probably a
think
new
about like
question.
5G networks, which allow us to be able to do a whole lot more on the systems, but like augmented reality and virtual reality and self-driving machines, things that need a lot of compute power with low latency, they can't go through the public cloud necessarily. But you still want to make sure that they're consistent with what you need to be able to do, because there'll be thousands of those devices out there and available. So how do you manage that? All of a sudden, you thought microservices made things a little bit more painful. Wait until this next set of trends come into play, and how we'll be able to address and manage and maintain and be able to update and keep it secure and connect to it. These are all challenging problems that definitely keep me up at night, and lots of whiteboarding around.
So HashiCorp will be there for the car manufacturer like BMW if they ever do a self-driving car.
Pretty much, or you can go online and take a look at our Mercedes-Benz, where they're talking about all the services within their vehicles actually use Consul and Terraform in order to be able to set that up and spin it up.
Already. Good. So you just see you're going to do more cloud hosting, and you're going to be doing more of that edge computing.
So wherever the industry takes us, that's one area.
Yeah. Fair enough. And we're going to be looking forward to working with you guys more and more as partners now. Thank you so much, Ray, for coming and speaking to us today. And anyone listening, if you're interested in anything that we talked about, the dynamic infrastructure, the cloud operating model, this paradigm shift that we're going through and how workflows have to shift, if you're curious about the Hashi stack, whether you should go to the enterprise layer rather than OSS, and how to work with the providers on the HashiCorp Hashi stack like Splunk or Okta, then just get in touch. You can reach me on LinkedIn. My name's Anne Mundy. Or you could email marketing@somerfordassociates.com. We'll put you in touch with Ray, or we'll get you in touch with the relevant expert, and you can and explore how this can help you and your company. Really enjoyed talking to you, Ray. Thank you so much, especially to hear about the trends as you see going forward, and essentially the fact that the HashiCorp is just so cutting edge in automating cloud infrastructure, and making all of that, managing a new cloud operating environment actually workable and actually agile. It's great to hear. So thanks so much, and looking forward to seeing you all on a podcast soon.